It's me.
Marquis D.
Shove it, squad, get your bricks at the ready because today's video I did not enjoy, and that may upset some of you today, but no offence. Today's guy made his name on the indies before impressing in TNA and proving that he was more than a cruiserweight competitor. Today's video was a Patreon request by two different people, so unlucky boys, you have to share a stage, there's no need to rage. Shout out to both Jonathan Burr and Jeffrey Reed for requesting this video. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up on Patreon today. And of course,
If you know a wrestler who could do the J-O-B to the H-A-W-K any night, any day, shove their name in the comment section, Jack.
Okay, A-double in the WWE. In TNA he was the world champion, but in the Fed he's the size of a flea. Aries arrived in the WWE in 2016, a year or so after his TNA run ended. They dumped him in NXT, but fans of Aries had hopes he could perform well on that brand and move on to the main stage. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury to his eyeball and this kept him out of action for quite a while. He actually made his pay-per-view debut as a commentator. Sorry, I need to get a grip, someone smacked me one. Meanwhile, Neville was on a roll with his cruiserweight title when Aries revealed he was no longer going to waste time being a commentator and he was now coming for the belt. This whole run will pretty much be about that. Match 1, Raw, Austin Aries vs Ariya Daivari, who is Sheik Abdul-Bashir's second cousin twice removed. Lot of Rinka King throwbacks going on at the moment, isn't there? They start out with a handshake before we get some chain wrestling. Aries gets the best of him with the handstand into the dropkick. Then he rests on the top rope in typical Austin Aries style. Daivari fights back, sending Aries out of the ring as his face smashes on the apron. Daivari is determined to make his second cousin proud and he hits a devastating clothesline. Aries doesn't care about Sheik Abdul-Bashir and he boxes Ariya's ears. Aries hits a backbreaker into a slam and a pendulum elbow. The match heads out of the ring where Austin Aries hits the suicide dive. Back in the ring, Aries hits a shin breaker into a huge suplex. The match then ends as Aries hits the discus forearm. I know he had a lot more tricks in his locker, but he didn't seem to have that TNA swagger here. Something's missing. An okay debut, but I can't say that there's anything remarkable that would make you want to see him again. The crowd were practically in silence. It's a D for the Austin Aries debut. Match 2, Raw, Austin Aries vs Tony Nese, who looks like a young Tommy Dreamer. Not watched any Tony Nese since his brief TNA run, and I think he was pretty good. Nese wastes no time and he jumps Aries straight away. He tries to throw Aries into the corner, but he floats over and starts skipping around the ring and then he boxes Nese's ears. Tony Nese battles back with some kicks. He really gets rolling with a scoop slam and a leg drop. Nese eventually gets overconfident and Aries throws him out of the ring and hits a suicide dive. As we come back from the advert break, Nese has Aries in a torture rack. Aries eventually rolls out of it and gets a 2 count, but he gets shut down with a running elbow. Tony Nese tries to capitalise with a second rope moonsault, but Aries dodges it. Aries gives him a neck breaker across the ropes. He's mounting his comeback now as he hits the STO and the pendulum elbow. A-double then hits the Green Bay plunge and he scrambles towards the top rope where he hits a top rope dropkick. The discus forearm ends the match, which looks a lot better than the one in the last match. He wants to celebrate, but he's interrupted by the champion Neville. This Neville's a peculiar looking guy, isn't he? Aries beats him to whatever he's about to say on the mic and asks what he's doing here as he doesn't have time for any interviews today. Neville is trying to cut a threatening promo, but Aries immediately destroys what he has to say and tells him that he's the worst interview segment he's ever been a part of. This gets a laugh from the crowd. Then he does a Neville impression, which gets even more laughs from the crowd. So we got a bit of everything here and a better match showing too. I'm giving this a C, almost a B, but it's nice for things to be going forward rather than backwards for a change round here. Match 3, Raw, Austin Aries vs Noam Dar with Alicia Fox. Another guy I haven't seen since TNA. Noam Dar is daydreaming of a better life when Aries charges at him with a dropkick to give him a rude awakening. Noam Dar does manage to get a 2 count on A-double with a discus strike, similar to Aries' one. Noam tries a head scissors, but Aries counters it by dropping him on his face. He's now completely in charge with the gutbuster into the STO and the pendulum elbow. He sends Dar to the outside of the ring to hit the suicide dive. Is it me or all these matches quite repetitive? Yes they are, as Aries hits the neck breaker across the ropes. Alicia Fox almost distracts Aries as she's screaming at him. "I don't like your face," she says. Aries gets rolled up but he kicks out. Aries hits the discus forearm twice now, but ends it in a different way this time as he puts on the last chancery for the tap out win. I guess a C would be fair for this one, but it's missing a bit of energy and the crowd is dead. If things don't start changing, the grades will start slipping. Trust me or I'll punch you in the gut. This crowd had less energy than a Brother Peace YouTube video. Match 4. Not sure if this one should count or not for Ring of the Hawk. The rules state it should only be matches on the main show. But if I skip this one, I expect we would be missing one of the main matches on this video. So I'm just going to do it because we're going by Rob Terry rules, remember. WrestleMania 33 kickoff show. Cruiserweight title match. The challenger Austin Aries versus the champion Neville. Sucks that this match has been bumped off the main show. Probably shows what they think of the cruiserweights. At least the crowd seems to be awake for this one. Nothing's really happening until Aries hits a Japanese arm drag and puts on an armbar. Neville reverses it into a head scissors.
Aries does a handstand, but then for some strange reason Neville pulls him on top of him, and then he almost gets pinned because of it. What an idiot.
Aries then almost rolls him up in return, so Neville decides to take a breather. The match is moving so fast it's hard to keep up. It looks like Aries is going for a Trish Stratus Bulldog, but instead he spins a bit more and he puts it into a big arm drag. Aries then does manage to hit his handstand dropkick. Neville is now on the outside of the ring and Aries tries a suicide dive, which Neville counters by booting him in the face. Drew McDonald Jr. comes back into the ring with a top rope dropkick and a 2 count. Just to show you that they don't care about this match, we go to an advert break. We come back with Aries in a sleeper hold. Aries does get out of it, but he gets booted in the face again. Neville's taking too long messing with the crowd and he misses his dive. Aries sees an opening, he does the gut buster into the STO and the pendulum elbow. Then he sends Neville out of the ring. Aries gives him a double axe from the top and also a suicide dive for a 2 count. Austin Aries' face isn't having a good day today as Neville pump kicks him in the corner. This sets up McDonald Jr. to try a superplex, but Aries pushes him off. Impressively, Neville flips through the air, but Aries meets him with a missile dropkick for a 2 count. Another nice exchange there. We get another nice exchange now as it looks like Aries is going to put Neville away at the discus, but instead he gets caught with a sudden German suplex that almost snaps him in half. Neville tries another one, but Aries is able to land on his feet. He immediately gets yet another kick to the noggin, and then Neville hits a bridging German for a 2 count. Aries seems completely out of it now as Neville slowly stamps on him. Neville tries to make him tap with the Rings of Saturn, but Aries turns it into a pinning combination. Neville makes it up and he hits an Inzaguri kick, but Aries no-sells it and hits a discus forearm. This has the power to send Neville out of the ring, so he can't be covered. Aries has to go and fetch him, which doesn't end well for him as Neville kicks him in the head for the 50th time. They both fight on the top where Aries hits a Frankensteiner. Then from the other corner, Aries hits a 450. Somehow, Neville kicks out of that. It looks like it's over for sure now as Aries puts on the last chancery. It doesn't work for him though as Neville gouges out his injured eyeball. Neville kicks him down and hits his red arrow dive from the top for the 3. Pretty good match and surprisingly long. It was just missing something, maybe a few more close pinfalls and reversals. This one's a B, just missing something. I didn't spray in my pants at all. Match 5 Raw, Austin Aries vs TJ Perkins. Lot of TNA links in this video so far. Aries starts out messing around rolling all over TJ. Perkins does a headstand into a head scissors and then takes a second to check on his hair. Both men seem to be having a battle to see who can do the most gymnastics, which leads to Austin Aries' handstand dropkick. Something new happens next as Aries hits a snapmare and then dives off the ropes with a flying elbow to the back of TJ. Perkins then starts thinking that he's still suicide in TNA, and then he tries a leg drop but he misses it. Aries gives him a neck breaker across the ropes and he hits his diving forearm from the top rope. Neville is also here distracting Aries and he almost gets counted out, then TJ rolls up Aries for the 3. Surprisingly, TJP attacks Aries after the match and he hits a fireman's carry into a kick. Pretty similar to the go to sleep, but it was his boot rather than his knee. I enjoyed this one and it felt different to the other ones. You don't often see Aries outsmarted though, this one gets a C grade. Match 6, Raw Tag Match. Neville teams up with his new friend TJ Perkins to take on, Sheamus during a potato famine, and our guy Austin Aries. Aries and the Potato Boy don't waste any time getting this one started and they capture the ring. During the advert break, Potato Boy gets isolated but then he makes the hot tag to A-double. Aries gives Perkins his combination and then the pendulum elbow. Then he turns his attention to Neville and he slaps his ears and then crashes on top of him from the ring apron. The fight spills outside where of course Aries hits the suicide dive. We then make it back into the ring where Aries puts on the last chancery on TJ which Neville has to break up. Neville then gets taken out by a headbutt by the Potato Boy and Aries wins with a discus on TJP. I honestly wonder why he's not using the brainbuster here. I feel like it was a more effective finish. Not much to say about this one, it's a D. Match 7, Payback 2017. Cruiserweight title match. The challenger A-double Austin Aries versus the champion Neville. Aries doesn't seem his normal confident self here. Aries then gets some confidence as he hits the first move with the Japanese armbar. Neville tries to put on an armbar of his own, but Austin Aries bounces out of it in a beautiful way. Aries continues working on his arm with a couple more arm drags. He also hits the handstand into the dropkick. Neville seems a bit concerned about this one. The crowd finally wakes up and starts chanting for Aries. Aries appreciates that and he hits a crossbody block to the outside. A-Double looks to put Neville away from the top, but Neville cuts him off and both men are down crying on the floor for a bit. Neville comes back into this one now and he nails a top rope dropkick for the 2 count. Drew McDonald Jr. is wasting lots of time screaming at the crowd and he eventually pays for it as Aries dropkicks him out of the ring. Aries looks like he's having a stroke as he tries to wake himself up, and I ain't talking slapnuts. Both men start trading strikes until Aries hits the STO combination and the elbow. Aries quickly follows it up with a snapmare into a diving elbow to the back of Neville. They start fighting on the ring apron where Aries is able to hit his famous neck breaker and a suicide dive as well. He gets Neville back in the ring, but it's just a 2 count. The big moves continue as Aries hits a shin breaker into a release suplex. Aries strikes Neville down and goes for a dive, but Neville cuts him off. It doesn't end well for him as Aries quickly snaps off a sunset flip powerbomb. Aries applies the last chancery and it looks like Aries will finally beat him, and he does, but he won't be getting the cruiserweight belt as Neville attacks the referee for the DQ. I've seen wrestlers do 1,000 times worse to referees and this was a DQ? Give me a break, this felt like a real brick to the gut. This was alright, it wasn't as good as their last pay-per-view match, so it's a C. Match 8, Raw, Austin Aries vs TJ Perkins. Aries seems annoyed that he's still not the champion and he beats up TJP in the corner. The highlight of the match is an extra loud and hard earbox by Aries. A-Double also gets a 2 count off a dropkick. I'm really starting to think Aries is just much better fit in the heavyweight division where he seems to be an expert in David vs Goliath type matches. Anyway, I'm rambling. TJP hits a springboard crossbody, but he doesn't seem to be taking this match seriously. Aries has a bad leg in this match, but he doesn't want to quit. Aries smashes into the corner and TJ puts on a Boston while sitting on the top rope. Not seen that one before. TJP looks to drag Aries into the ring pole, nutsack first, but Aries pulls TJ into the pole, meathead first. Aries gives him the suicide dive. Austin Aries then continues to do all the moves we've seen 7 times already, and all of these moves would look cooler on bigger opponents, by the way. Perkins misses a roundhouse kick, which allows Aries to hit the shin breaker into the release suplex. Aries' bad leg is still giving him jip, but he eventually manages to reverse out of a fireman's carry and put on the last chancery. Aries wins by tap out. Really boring at this point, it's a D. The crowd were dead and I'd love to see something different right about now. Unfortunately, we can't get everything we want in life. Match 9, Raw Tag Match, Neville and TJ Perkins versus the Little Potato Man and Austin Aries. This crap again. It's like they can't be bothered to do anything. Aries wants to start with Neville but he tags out because he's scared. Aries slams him into the corner and tags his little partner in. They work together to elevate Austin Aries into his opponents on the outside. Aries is still selling his bad leg here from the last match. Neville is no longer eventually scared of Aries as he comes in when he's been downed. A-Double gets isolated for a very long time in this one whilst the crowd chants CM Punk. Aries eventually skips back into the ring and hits the behind ear box on TJP to bring his partner in. Aries is supposed to be selling his bad leg, but he starts running around the ring and then he hits a diving attack on Neville to the outside. Aries also hits the discus forearm on the outside on Neville, but whilst that's going on, TJP puts the small famine man away. Extremely boring, skippable and pointless. It's an S, this run is starting to slide into the turd zone. Match 10, Raw, Tony Nese with Neville versus Austin Aries. Aries still has a bad leg, maybe he should take a week off work. We do actually get something new in this match. Aries does a last chancery submission to Nese's leg while leg scissoring Nese's face. Aries is still dominating despite his leg and he dives to the outside of the ring. This match changes when Austin Aries gets distracted and has his leg taken out from underneath him. Nese takes his turn to dominate the match until Aries fights out of a vertical suplex and puts on an octopus stretch. Nese resists tapping out for a while before trying to throw Aries off. Aries holds on and he rolls into the last chancery and then he makes Nese tap out. Okay, I admit I enjoyed that one, especially the finish. Do you know why? Well, it was actually something different and that's all I asked for. It's a C. Match 11, Raw Tag, Austin Aries and Gentleman Jack, again, versus TJP and Neville. How exciting, I almost smashed my computer in half. It's the exact same match again where Neville doesn't want to fight Aries because he's scared. Luckily for me, Aries isn't really in the match at all and just TJP and Neville beat up the little famine man. Never have I ever been so bored of seeing a suicide dive. Aries gets the tap out win with the last chancery. The key thing here is that he taps Neville out for the first time without any shenanigans. It's a D, not much to see. Match 12, final match. What, really? That can't be right, can it? Extreme Rules 2017, submission match. Cruiserweight title on the line. The challenger, Austin Aries versus the champion Neville. I really hate his gimmick as the king of the cruiserweights. That's like celebrating that one of your turd lumps is bigger than the rest. It's not really an achievement, is it? Especially when the WWE clearly don't give a shit about the cruiserweight crew. Aries is the first one to attempt a submission, but Neville makes the ropes. This match has a very slow start as Neville doesn't want to lock up. Aries gets annoyed and jumps at Neville trying to put the submission on, but he backs him into the corner. Aries is having a good time in this one and he almost puts on the last chancery. The fight spills outside the ring where Aries sends Neville into the barricade, not once but twice, and it sure wasn't nice. They come into the ring after a few minutes where Neville hits a dragon screw and is able to slow the pace down even more. Aries does fight back with a dragon screw of his own, but he can't hit the net breaker on the apron as Neville kicks him and he lands on his face. Neville tries to put the match away and he wants to soften Aries up with a top rope dive. It gets a bit botchy and they both fall down unfortunately. Aries quickly puts on the figure 4 and Neville screams and he makes the ropes. Neville takes his turn almost winning with the Rings of Saturn, which he has locked in for a while. Somehow that doesn't end the match. Neville's wasting time and Aries almost puts on his own version of the Rings of Saturn. A-Double then seems to be having some sort of argument with the referee when he eats a Neville kick. The crowd are in complete silence. The non-internet fan would absolutely hate this one. Aries hits the sunset flip powerbomb into the last chancery for like a second before he's able to get out the ring. Aries manages to keep the last chancery hold on outside of the ring where Neville taps out, but his tap out doesn't count out there. Aries does hit the discus forearm on the outside too, then it gets weird. Aries goes for a suicide dive but he completely misses and his feet catch the rope. He was no way near him. Neville gets him in the ring and he nails his red arrow dive to Aries' back and then he puts on the Rings of Saturn for the tap out win. Game over. This match was way too long. But apart from that, it feels like nowadays just because a match is long it's supposed to be really good. It really wasn't, it was a C. After this, Aries was released by the Federation. The writers apparently didn't have anything for him, but he was reportedly unpopular backstage, so that probably didn't help him. You've got to remember that when he was in TNA before this, he was pushed as one of the top stars in the company. He had a lot of mic time and certainly wasn't relegated to the X Division. He knew he could offer more, but he didn't get a chance to show it in the Fed. So he went back to TNA and he killed it for the next few years. I didn't enjoy it as much as his previous TNA run as the stars had all left by the time he returned, so it was mostly high-flying matches, but better ones than WWE. So we've just got to give him a final grade for Ring of the Hawk. This one I had high hopes for, but I was let down. It was nothing of any substance, he was there but they didn't care. Austin Aries' final grade for his WWE run is a D. I really found it incredibly boring and pointless. He wrestled the same 4 guys over and over again. All the matches were the same and there was no storyline past I want to beat Neville and become the Cruiserweight Champion. It was hard to get excited for any of the matches because the crowd were dead for all of them, and it just seemed that whatever was going on in the ring wouldn't have an effect on the overall product. Now I know that's not Aries' fault, but I can only grade what's on my screen, and if you don't agree with that, I'll smack out your spleen.